The new athletic director at Texas A&M Commerce, Tim McMurray, was a guest on KSST's Good Morning Show with Enola Gay Tuesday morning, and I had the opportunity to interview him. McMurray told us about a new partnership between the university and the Sulphur Springs Country Club.
Thursday will be 60 days on the job for me, so I would say we're, in my opinion, it's my fault. We're about 30 days behind getting over here because Sulphur Springs is, as we'll talk about this morning, a very important community to Texas A&M Commerce and certainly to our athletic program. And I think of Sulphur Springs, you know, when people may ask or wonder why it's so important, I say that it's that same metaphor when they ask Jesse James why he robs banks, because that's where the money is. This is where the people are. We certainly have a terrific community in commerce, but the sheer numbers say there's 8,000 people in commerce, and we want to expand the brand, as I like to call it, and engage better with Sulphur Springs, and we've got some strategies and some initiatives in place, and actually have something exciting to announce this morning here on the air for the first time, and we can talk about that here in a little bit as we get into it, but it's something that directly engages the university and the community here.
Oh, okay. So a little tease there.
Absolutely.
And, we'll have to see what that's all about. But, you know, there's a tremendous number of graduates of a lot of them East Texas State University, like a fellow that's running the camera today, but Texas A&M Commerce, and it's been that way maybe for a decade or something. I'm not sure of the history, but it's been that way for a while. Let's talk about you a little bit. Now, you said 60 days. I guess it was like in early October. Mm-hmm. What was that like to come in kind of in the middle of a football season? And, I guess most of the time you're used to taking a job kind of at the beginning of a school year.
Absolutely.
How was that?
It was it was drinking from a fire hose, but thankfully we slowed the water pressure down a little bit. But it gave me a chance to come in, and on the interview I talked a lot, and I've talked with our leadership team and our head coaches already about that, God gave us two ears and one mouth, and sometimes you have to remember to use those proportionally, and it's given me a chance to attempt to do that. I've tried to listen and do a lot of assessment. But before I started, I accepted the position. Let me think about this. On September 30th or September 29th, the press conference was October 1st. And I hit the ground running here on October 8th. And so it was pretty quick. And I did a little bit of back and forth there that first weekend in terms of transitioning, but had the opportunity to get going right away. And in that transition period, what I did was send out assessments to each of our head coaches and our leadership team, just some open-ended questions. So it gave me a little bit better feel, and that'll chart the course for our strategic plan. And when you hear strategic plan, it sounds like a corporate buzzword, but it's going to be an active living document for us. When you have a strategic plan, sometimes people do 3 to 5 year strategic plans and then they don't stay, or it becomes a shelf document or something that doesn't get acted on. And this is going to be one where we're going to really truly define our mission, vision, values, have 5 or 6 strategic goals, touching each area of our department, including our competitive programs, and really build on what Dr. Jones, Dan Jones, our president, shared with me that his 5 priorities were when he hired me.
When they first wanted to interview you, what were your thoughts about the job? Do you have any preconceived notions about what it would be like? Or?
Yeah, great question. And I, with my background, having worked at 5 pretty diverse institutions, and all of them very fond memories I take away from each. Professionally, Lamar, Texas State, that was Southwest Texas at the time, so having gone through a name change similar to what East Texas and Texas A&M Commerce have gone through, and I'll talk about that in a minute. Northern Illinois, SMU, and Maryland, so 3 of the 5 schools obviously being in Texas. And I was very frank with the search committee and the president and the leadership that I met during the interview process, that if I'd just been at an SMU and a Maryland, I might not be the right institutional fit for commerce. But having been at Lamar and Texas State, very similar in size at the time. Texas State's kind of taken off a little bit in the Austin-San Antonio corridor, but a lot of the things we did and needed to do at Lamar are some of the same things that match up here. So I really feel like my skill set in terms of knowing our resources and putting the right people in the right seats on the bus and identifying those opportunities and resources are what we needed to do. So my preconceived notion has actually even been improved since I got here, because our campus partners are very, very motivated to help us be successful. Mm-hmm. And that's certainly from Lavelle, from our athletic council, and even really from our president's advisory council, all of our vice presidents down. I've had a chance to engage with each one of those individually. I've also had a chance to engage with our deans and some of our department heads, and have enjoyed doing that. So I've kind of started the structure of building from the inside out, and really try to maintain, as the president requested, that we maintain those collegial campus relationships, and we're off to a great start there.
You can kind of see from your career path that maybe at each stop along the way you were kind of getting ready for maybe at this point in your life, where you're in different areas, that you kind of bring them all together here at Texas A&M Commerce.
Absolutely, it is the first time to sit in the director of athletics chair. But as you mentioned, everything, whether it's with sport administration, with revenue generation, and engaging the community, working with our coaches and hiring coaches, and having to hire the right, leadership in terms of our, whether it's in our academic support for our student athletes, our financial affairs, our compliance area, already been involved in hiring a director of compliance. We've got a head golf coach position open right now, and that's really a great opportunity for us, and that segues into my teaser a little bit, as we are looking for we're about 2 weeks from probably naming a head golf coach, and one thing as I assessed that program that we needed to do was improve the competitive opportunities for our kids, and it's going to cover several goals. But as of last Friday, we've signed an agreement with Sulphur Springs Country Club that will engage our athletic department and our golf programs, and so that will be the home course of Lion men's and women's golf. I know that there's a great relationship with Sulphur Springs High School, and we're going to carry that to the collegiate level, and really engage better with the community. It'll provide opportunities for myself and the president, some of our coaches, to be out here and to better engage with the community. We're actually having our athletic department holiday party out there next week, and so really looking forward, and so we can't just say we want to be in Sulphur Springs without a strategic vision to actually do it and put boots on the ground over here, and so it'll give us a year-round presence, and I know our student athletes in the golf programs are very excited about it. I've engaged with those team captains, and as we go through this transition with our golf program, talk to them a lot about one thing they can do, and having both men's and women's connections on our golf team. They're very excited about having privileges out at the country club, and that'll give us a chance to get to know this community better and get them to come visit us in Commerce for football and basketball games.
I guess kind of from a point of view of kind of being on the sideline and kind of looking things over, I'd always had the impression that there was kind of a sleeping giant over there, just ready to be awakened, and I kind of sensed the last year or two that, and I know you said some very kind things that I've seen in print about your predecessor and the job that he did, and kind of preparing the way for you. But it seems like the sports programs are really beginning to perk up, and 6 Lone Star Conference championships last year tells me a lot right there.
Yeah, I mentioned those 5 priorities the president had, and one of them is we won 6 Lone Star Conference championships last year, so this year means 7 or 8. So thankfully we've already knocked down 2 in our first 4 seasons in football and soccer, winning conference championships, and volleyball and cross country had very competitive finishes as well, but we've already got 2 conference championships, so that means I've got to notch at least 5 more somewhere here before we finish up the spring. But no, very excited to have engaged initially with our coaches and see what we need to do. And as you mentioned, Ryan Ivey, my predecessor, talked to him several times, talked to him as recently as Sunday evening. And just in terms of being a resource and helping lay the land. And Ryan's been both a sounding board and kind of giving me some guidance and bringing a little bit different skill set. Ryan had a different job when he accepted this position back in late 2012, early 13. They were coming off a back-to-back 1-9 football seasons. There wasn't the competitive. There were a couple of programs that were competitive, but as you mentioned, there just wasn't a lot of juice. Mm-hmm. And the word I find myself talking about a lot is tempo, and just like what Colby Carthel's done with our football program and what Neil Piper continues to do with our soccer program and our basketball programs on the uptick, being picked in the upper division of the Lone Star, and certainly the men coming off a conference championship. Tempos is going to be a big word with me, and that doesn't mean you have to run to every meeting, but you need to have a strategic plan, and we need to not just be sitting on the sideline talking about it. Lavelle and I driving over here this morning, we're talking about a couple of things and some good ideas, and what was the result of that? And it's like, well, it just sat in the parking lot. And so we can't leave out good ideas in the parking lot is what I like to say, and we're not going to. We're gonna take swift action and just appreciate the opportunity to engage here with Sulphur Springs.
I was very impressed with the new football staff a couple of years ago after they came in, and one of the first things they did were they had a series of East Texas football camps, and they were spread about. One of them was here in Sulphur Springs, and one was in deep East Texas, somewhere. It may have been Longview or somewhere like that. Mm-hmm. But it kind of gave a message to football kids that are really good players that there's another option down the road, that you that if you're looking to have that continue to play at the next level, that A&M Commerce is a good option. And I think that, has kind of increased the profile of A&M Commerce and in those players' minds, and it seemed like the recruitment of East Texas players has improved, in my opinion, it seemed like to me.
Absolutely. And we want, just like we talk about, Sulphur Springs is important to us. The entire Northeast Texas region is very important to us, not just from an athletic standpoint, but from recruiting university students. From we're now the fastest growing per capita institution in the Texas A&M University system. Went over 13,000 enrollment last fall for the first time, and when you have that kind of growth, you would hope that your athletic program is doing the same thing and keeping up. And right now we are. Now we've got to do everything we can to continue to be in Sulphur Springs and to continue to be, as you mentioned, in East Texas, and the Tylers and the Longviews and the Greenvilles and Rockwall and Roy City and all the up and down I-30. You could really build fences around here, and just if we could keep our communities engaged and keep some of our students here close to home, it's got Texas A&M Commerce. It's what I call, and having spoke to some alumni groups in Dallas already, and all up and down the I-30 corridor, that we want to keep. We want to keep our homegrown talent here, build fences around it, but we're an hour away from Dallas. You don't have to pack a lunch to get there. And talking in terms of Dallas alums, you don't have to pack a lunch to get out to Commerce. And it's very similar to a couple other places I've worked where we're near a metropolitan area. And, it's an hour, but it's a very easy hour. And if the product's good and the momentum from the institution is where it is right now, then it should be a fun day to come to Commerce.